So in the past, we actually talked about dyes and pigments used by artists. This week's color is green, right?
Right.
In 16th century Persia, there were some types of swords that were actually made out of copper. And, when they hung the swords, and there'd be other folks that would clean the swords, the rust would fall off. And they actually used that to make a green pigment in Persia, ancient Persia. Also, the mineral malachite actually has been used very extensively, even to this day. It's ground up to make a green paint. It was actually originally used by the Egyptians as eyeshadow. And in 9th century China, there was a green dye, porcelain, which only royalty could actually own. And sadly, though, the formula for that green has been lost. George Washington painted his dining room at Mount Vernon green, and that actually was revolutionary at the time, believe it or not.
It was.
And so today there are many sources of green coloring, including vegetable dyes, just not quite as long-lasting as the mineral-based pigments. So, Jacques, what is green actually?
What is green? The
What is green?
itself? Well,
all right, there we go. I think we have a lot of chemists in our audience, so I don't know if you can read that from the glare, but all right.
I can't tell if I can see.
Oh, we're getting there. All right. Well, if you can't read it and you actually want to know what it is, just shoot us a note. We'll send it to you. Okay, so let's get started with the art talk. Actually, we have something special today. We've given our art specialist historian Sarah a little bit of really well-deserved time off.
Yep.
She's actually on a tour group at a couple of museums. She had a rare opportunity to go visit a few museums. So that's what she's doing.
And actually, it's field research for our future art talks, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So today we actually want to do something special. So our art director Tom Paisley is a very talented individual, as all of our folks in the basically our graphic artists and desktop publishing group of folks are. And as I mentioned, many of the covers, there are many of the covers that we help our clients with on the proposals are done by our folks. Tom certainly had his fair share. Interesting, Tom actually has done some really phenomenal graphics for our clients in the Pentagon. So an entire segment of the wall in the E-ring was actually a huge presentation display that Tom designed and managed the execution of.
It was a huge wall, and that's it.
Yeah.
That hallway is long.
It is. Yeah.
I had the opportunity to see that. It was impressive.
It's very impressive. Yeah, and it's in the E-ring, so it's right by the Secretary of Defense's office. So Tom's had a fabulous career here at SMA, and we actually want to let Tom feature some of his art portfolio. So Tom, over to you.
Okay. Can everyone hear me?
We can. Hey, Tom, is that art? Is that background some of the art you've been involved in, or did you have some help with that one?
I'll be talking about that later.
I won't scoop you. All right, I'll let you do your thing.
So Paisley by Paisley.
I am going to stop my video and start sharing. Let me see. All right. Okay. Can everyone see me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, well, good. All right. My name is Tom Paisley. I joined SMA in November of 1996. That'll be 25 years ago this year. I've worked a lot of proposals and projects with SMA, and except for the one reference that AJ already pointed out, working for monitor for him at the Pentagon. It's been a very long and interesting road going into this thing. I won't talk a whole lot about, let me see, let me get them over here so I can get my slides. I won't get into how I started or how I learned to improve my art, but needless to say, I have always had an interest in communicating complex and scientific engineering concepts to other people. I had a number of things I was going to talk about, and then I looked at my time allocation and I had to cut a lot of them out. So we're going to go over a handful of the more interesting ones. I've done a lot of covers, and this one may not look very impressive, but it was actually one of the more popular ones. This is for the TSIS, obviously the Tennessee Child Support Enforcement System. I did this in Nashville back in 2003, and it was all about getting a hold of assets for people, deadbeat parents who wouldn't pay their child support. So whether they got sizable tax returns or lottery winnings, the state wanted to have an ability to intercept those and direct them to where it really belongs, to upbringing their children. This one was particularly popular with the team because the program manager's daughter, 4-year-old daughter, actually did the artwork. You see down there in the corner. I added the sun in the corner, and Accenture had a lot of rigid document policies where you weren't able to have like art below the center line, the gold center line there. But I was always pushing the envelope with that thing. This was interesting. This was a project for Lockheed Martin. I'm sure a lot of you are aware of the Littoral Combat Ship. I did this in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. And over 30 days, I worked with a team of about 6 or 8 other artists to create these large panels. These were about 3 feet tall and 6 feet wide. We had an event, I think it was in place of an orals or something like that, where we had a trade show style format where you had booths there, and these graphics would cover various aspects of the design. Again, there were 30 of them, so there was a lot to do over a month. And some of the topics that they covered were things like propulsion, accommodation, command and control, hull design, survivability. It wasn't always hardware. It was sometimes the processes that kept the ship going. It's a very fun project. Now, as AJ mentioned, I worked on a display for the Pentagon on the E-ring for the Office of the Secretary of Defense Comptroller. If you go through the Pentagon, it's almost like going through the Smithsonian. There are displays all over the place. The Army has one, the Navy has one. Everybody has something where they're showing off what they do. And the only one who really, significant office in there that didn't have one was a comptroller. And so we had to struggle with how do you tell a story about financial aspects of defense. We didn't really have a lot of influence directly with any of the departments, but we were always involved with all of them because everything had to be funded. The top image there was, and I'm going to focus on the timeline. There was this display was about 65 feet long, but the meat of the display was in the financial exhibit here. And when you think about how financial managers communicate with each other, they usually do it with charts and graphs. So we thought that was a really good way to get our point across, and that was to show the budget. We originally decided or thought that we would look at the history of financial management in defense from the beginning of the country, but that turned out to be a little problematic. And I think it was a lot easier to start the display at the start of the Department of Defense, which came with the National Security Act in 1948. As you can see now, the bottom line here is the one we actually used. The top one was just a preliminary, but it didn't really tell the story like we wanted. We needed to divide the budget instead of having a single line and just showing that, hey, we got this much money here and we got that much money there. We wanted to break it up into 3 different aspects. That would be the military personnel, the people who do the work for you, the operational costs, what you send them to do, and the acquisition costs, which were the tools, because they each tell a very different story depending on the timeline that's there. I will read what my boss at the Pentagon, Kevin Scheid, put in a memo when he was asking permission from the facilities management to put this display together. He wrote that the purpose of the display was to effectively educate and convey the work and the direct impact that the Office of the Undersecretary of Defense Comptroller has had during the previous 60 years. The information contained within the display serves to integrate OUSDC related perspective and milestone with events, products, and accomplishments of the entire Department of Defense since its inception. So what does that mean? Well, here is a bunch of thumbnails of the actual timeline that we actually use. We have 7 different layers of information that explain why these lines, the blue, orange, and green, went up the way they did. Now, some of it was the administration and the philosophies involved with that. Some of it were the tools of the procurement costs at a particular time, and all the other things with the operational and the operational military personnel and acquisition. And of course, down at the bottom, we had, world events. One of the things you can see at the very beginning in 1950, oddly enough, a lot of people think about, think about the Reagan buildup in the 80s. And think there was a lot of outdated equipment that needed to be procured, and there was a big glut in spending, but nobody really realizes that the Truman buildup was a heck of a lot bigger. Part of that was that North Korea invaded South Korea, and the Soviets had their first nuclear test, and I guess Americans as a people didn't feel very safe, so they felt that they needed to update a lot of their equipment. This is in the wake of World War II. So I think there was something in the order of 2,500 surface warfare ships that were mothballed after that, partially because of age and partially because our personnel went down incredibly right after the war. So there were various aspects of why that cost went so high. I will show you this guy. This is the actual file for that particular period. No, this is the Reagan buildup. Okay, let me get over to this one. I mean, here's one thing right here that you can see, that direct engineering man hours for jet fighters, because jet fighters were pretty new at that point, increased 27 times from propeller aircraft just a few years before. The procurement for a lot of hardware, the B-47, the M48 Patton. There were a lot of things. The Nautilus, the first nuclear-powered sub. There were a lot of new ideas that were being put together, and that had some associated costs. So there's a lot of stories like that. I think one time I showed this to my dad while I was under development, and I think this is what happened with a lot of people, is they would pretty much kind of zero in on when they joined the service or when they, had a particular association with the Defense Department, and they found it very interesting to look at some of these other aspects that were going on at the time that helped drive these costs up. Now, this isn't a complete view of it, but this is what we were able to come up with. It was basically almost a 2-year project to get this together. There are thousands and thousands of data points that go into this whole display. But and one thing I'm very surprised about is how long this particular display stayed up, because we only had financial information up to about 2010. Yeah. And it just came down about a year ago. So there was really no room to expand this because of just the real estate that of the wall and the part of the Pentagon that it was at. So at least it seemed compelling enough to keep up for a while.
We were just there recently, Tom, and there's nothing's replaced it.
So, well, what could you possibly replace this with?
Exactly. And it's great that you highlighted this, because we also have David Patterson on the call, who was one of our clients at the time from Tom Coder's office. I think David can also attest to how powerful that display was.
Wow, he can also probably do a better job of talking about this than I can.
I doubt that.
Okay, and one of the fun things I'm able to do is, over the past year, we've had a lot of these town halls as we've been creating a lot of these backgrounds for various on various themes. A lot of it's towards some event that we're celebrating, or the artists that we're talking about, and of course, this time we decided to feature the artists, so that's why you have a lot of Paisleys on the background of our current one. And this one was actually put together by myself and Susanna Etier. That she was sort of the lead on this thing. But there was a lot, there's quite a few hours put into it. We sort of had to throw it together at the last minute. And she created a lot of the handwork. And there was one point where we got on Teams and were able to put this together in a digital format. And I thought it would be kind of neat to see how that, let me see. Oops. There we go. These are the different components that we put this thing together with. There were 2 washes that Susanna did. We got some stock Adobe Illustrator art, and there's a stock photo right behind my head. And I will just give you a little time lapse of how we put this thing together. And with that, I will leave you and enjoy.
Wow, Tom and Susanna, that was fabulous.
It was
It really was.
And Tom, you were wrong. It's nothing like watching paint dry. It was very interesting.
Incredible. Thank you for sharing, Tom. I know that it's hard for you to share things as it is for each of us. Right. You're a very humble person, but that was a very nice sampling of your incredible creativity. That's served us well over these last 25 years.
Yeah.
Just a quick story. How we got Tom is a very long story, but I'll make it really short. I was actually running a proposal for SMA, Waste Policy Institute, back then. And it was one of these things where there weren't enough hours in the day to do. And I think it was after 2 straight all-nighters directly with Tom, who was doing graphics and desktop publishing. We got to know each other pretty well, became friends. I said, Tom, when you're ever tired of doing this at Waste Policy Institute, just give us a ring. Well, thank you, Tom. And thank you, Susanna. That's a fabulous background. Yeah.